The air inside the courtroom was thick and heavy, every breath a struggle, as though justice itself weighed upon the room. All eyes were fixed on one man, Ethan Walker, who sat in his chair with that familiar, arrogant smirk stretched across his face. For months he had treated the trial like a stage, smirking at evidence, laughing at grief, and mocking the system that held his fate in its hands. He looked untouchable, as though no verdict could pierce his armor. But on this day, the one voice he could never have expected shattered that armor into pieces. His own mother. Elizabeth Walker stepped into the witness stand, her face pale, her eyes weary, but her voice steady. She did not come to save her son. She came to tell the truth. And the truth was a blade sharper than anything the prosecution had wielded. Elizabeth's testimony cut deep, describing Ethan not as a misunderstood young man, but as something darker, emptier, more dangerous. She spoke of years of entitlement, of a boy who never learned consequences, of a heart devoid of remorse. Her words were not excuses. They were revelations. They were the Rosetta Stone that translated Ethan's strange, cold behavior into a terrifying language the jury could finally understand. The silence in the courtroom was absolute, broken only by the sharp sound of Ethan's chair as it screeched against the floor. His mask of control cracked, shattering into fury. He lunged forward, his face contorted with rage, his voice raw and guttural as he screamed, "You're lying! I hate you!" His body thrashed against the bailiffs who restrained him, his anger a wild storm no longer hidden. In that instant, the jury did not see a misunderstood young man. They saw exactly what his mother had warned them about. A monster. Defense attorney Michael Clark sat frozen, his face ashen. The strategy he had spent months building collapsed in seconds. He had prepared for cross-examinations, for evidence battles, for clever rebuttals. But he was utterly blindsided by the one person he had counted on, Ethan's mother. His defense was not defeated by the prosecution. It was destroyed by betrayal. And in that moment, Olivia Rodriguez, the lead prosecutor, stood calm and unshaken. Her closing words were simple, but they carried the weight of a hammer. His own mother showed you the monster. Now it is your duty to hold that monster accountable. The trial was already decided, not by rhetoric, but by truth. The jury left for deliberation, but they did not stay long. Less than an hour later, the courtroom held its breath as they returned. Their faces were grim, resolute, and unshaken. The foreman handed the paper to the clerk, who read aloud in a clear, steady voice. On the charge of aggravated murder, we, the jury, find the defendant, Ethan Walker, guilty. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. On one side, the Campbell family clutched one another, a wave of quiet relief washing over them. On the other side, silence fell like a heavy curtain across the defense table. Ethan sat in his standard-issue orange jumpsuit, flanked by deputies. The volcanic rage of the day before was gone. What replaced it was worse. A chilling stillness. His eyes were empty, distant, devoid of life. The smirk that had once taunted victims, jurors, and the court itself was nowhere to be found. 2 weeks later, the courtroom filled again for the sentencing hearing. The air carried a weight, a finality, as if the walls themselves understood that this would be the last chapter in a long and harrowing story. Judge James Harris, known for his stern but fair presence, entered and took his seat. His gaze locked onto Ethan with a piercing intensity. He had presided over hundreds of cases in his career, but this one was different. This was not just about the law, it was about morality, community, and the boundaries of evil. His voice rumbled low and powerful as he began to speak, commanding the silent attention of everyone in the room. He spoke first of David Campbell, the man whose life had been so senselessly taken. A man of honor, compassion, and strength. A man whose absence left a void in his family and in the community at large. Then the judge turned to Ethan. His words were sharp, deliberate, each syllable cutting into the illusion of invincibility that Ethan had worn like armor. For weeks, you have sat in this courtroom with contempt. You smirked at the grieving family. You laughed at the evidence of your own monstrous acts. You mocked this process as if it were a game. But it is not a game. And today, Mr. Walker, that game ends. The courtroom seemed to tremble with the weight of those words. Judge Harris continued, his voice cold, unflinching. Your attorney argued that you are the product of a broken home, that you did not understand the consequences of your actions. But your own mother told us the truth. She told us she created a world for you where consequences did not exist. And today that world ends. Her testimony was not a plea for mercy, it was a warning. This court will heed that warning. Then, with the gravity of a gavel falling like thunder, he delivered the sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. The reaction was immediate. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by silence so complete it felt eternal. It was the maximum sentence possible, the ultimate declaration that Ethan Walker would never again walk free. And in that precise moment, the mask he had so carefully crafted for months finally disintegrated. His arrogance shattered. His smirk dissolved. His eyes widened in raw, uncomprehending terror. For the first time, Ethan Walker understood true fear. His lips quivered. A strangled sob escaped his throat, the first genuine emotion he had shown throughout the entire trial. But it was not remorse. It was not grief for David Campbell or regret for the pain he had caused. It was pure, selfish terror. The deputies moved in to escort him away, but his composure crumbled completely. He struggled weakly against them, his eyes darting wildly as though searching for an escape that no longer existed. His hands shook, his shoulders trembled, and his breath came in ragged gasps. The invincible facade was gone. All that remained was a broken young man facing the crushing reality of eternity behind bars. And in that moment, everyone in the courtroom saw what his mother had seen all along. Not a misunderstood youth, but an empty vessel, a dangerous void that could never be filled. Elizabeth Walker sat silently, watching her son being led away. Her face was stone, her eyes endless pools of sorrow. No tears fell, but the grief inside her was deeper than anyone could imagine. She had given him life, nurtured him, and now she had borne witness to its effective end. She had testified against him not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. She understood him better than anyone else ever could. She understood that the world needed protection from the boy she once loved. As the heavy doors of the courtroom closed behind Ethan, sealing his fate, the sound echoed like a final judgment. The laughter and arrogance that once haunted the trial were gone, replaced by silence. The silence of justice. The silence of a monster, finally and fully defeated.